Hello everyone, I'm Martin Hodosi, partner with Kearney and leading our R&D advisory services in North America. I'm very pleased to welcome you today to our next episode of Practitioner Voices, our series of conversations with biopharma R&D leaders on strategy and transformation in the drug discovery and drug development. And today I'm very pleased to welcome into our conversation Mark Travers, a real veteran and stalwart of the industry of 37 years. I think we're close to 2 life sentences, was it, Mark?
Yeah.
Mark has had a phenomenal career growing up from starting as a CRA, working in Germany and in the UK, to now leading an organization of over 6,000 colleagues in over 70 countries. He's currently the head of regions for global clinical trial operations at Merck MSD and preparing to transition into the next phase of his long-running career. So Mark, thank you for joining us. We are in an interesting time for the industry. I think a lot of leaders I speak to feel like we're approaching a special moment that will really demand the next level of effectiveness of R&D organizations. And we're really facing, I think, starker consequences than we're used to from the last few years if we don't get it right. You've been doing this for a while. I'm sure this is not the first time you see the industry getting a little bit qualmy or anxious. From your perspective, are we at a breaking point, like many of those leaders describe it, or is this in the long run just going to be sort of the next blip on our journey?
As you said, Martin, I've been doing this job for quite a long time, 37 years. You introduced me as a veteran. And during those 37 years, we have been through many challenges in the pharma industry and in global clinical trial operations. I wouldn't say that this is just a blip. I think that we have to take this challenging period very, very seriously. However, I work with an amazing group of very professional, well-qualified and experienced colleagues who will be able to guide us through these challenging times, not just within Merck, but within the pharmaceutical industry and within the CRO industry itself. And then the hospitals, the physicians, the nurses, the pharmacists that we work with, again, are very, very professional. They're very experienced. They want to do the very best for the patients. So I'm confident that we will come out of this strong. We will learn from this, and that we will continue to develop medicines, much-needed medicines for patients as quickly as possible.
I love to hear the optimism, Mark, and obviously truly hope that you're right and trust your judgment. Let me dig into that a little bit. Mm-hmm. I think, look, a lot of firms right now are focused on efficiency, productivity, how can we reduce risk. Tough times is where we learn. What do you think will be some of the highlights of what we take with us from this episode that will make us stronger for the next leg of our journey?
Well, I think that there are many aspects to this. If we look at it from a clinical trial operations perspective, then we maybe look at selecting the sites that we work with and the countries that we work with slightly better. Maybe we want to work with sites that can recruit more patients than we've maybe traditionally given them in the past. We look at sites that maybe can start up a little bit quicker, and also maybe sites that have enough resources to take on more of our work in terms of increasing patient numbers. I think we may also need to be looking at the protocol design. Can we simplify that? Can we make it easier for patients to participate in clinical trials and for the investigators to find those patients? And also, do we need to collect all the data that we've traditionally collected in the past? So again, that may speed up clinical trials, may speed up the delivery of the clinical trials. And with that, we will gain some efficiencies. We'll gain maybe some increased productivity through our CRA organization, and again, through better utilization of our R&D dollars.
So you hit on a theme there, Mark, which came up yesterday in our innovation roundtable as well, where we chatted with some of your peers and other leaders from R&D organizations. And it was this topic of simplification.
Yes.
We design inherently complex protocols as we try to make the most out of these projects. In your perspective, what could be sort of the 1 to 2 perhaps primary learnings or capabilities that we foster during these next years that will make a difference for us going forward and improving on this?
Yeah, I think protocol simplification is a great area to focus in on. I think that we need to look at the protocol from 2 aspects. Is the protocol sufficient to satisfy the regulatory authorities to grant approval or extend the license? And is the protocol simple enough that a patient would be able to participate in this study and it would not also put a burden on the investigational site? So if we look at it from the perspective and point of view of, will this satisfy the regulatory authorities for submission? Will a patient be able to participate and want to participate? And will it also reduce the burden on the sites that are running the study for us? So 3 areas that we should really be thinking about concentrating on. We should also look at the data we're gathering. How useful is that? And why are we collecting it? And is it nice to have, or do we really need to collect that data? Or have we collected that data in a previous study and we don't need to duplicate the effort? So again, a few potential avenues to explore.
You mentioned a couple of things that I would probably frankly call foundational, right? Being smart about not recollecting data, making sure we streamline. But you also spoke to a few things around understanding burden, for instance, where we see a rise in the use of digital technologies to help pharma to do this. And we've, as part of our work, helped a number of sponsors to stand up these kinds of solutions and integrate them in the processes. We see a lot of promise there. Now, outside of that application area, how do you see digital coming in over these next years? What are sort of the main themes that you're excited for?
I am very excited about the potential for digital, for AI, for machine learning, and new aspects of working. Where I've seen it having benefit has been in designing protocols and also in producing the clinical research report. So that is at the beginning of the study and at the end of the study. My job is focusing in on selecting countries, selecting sites, and recruiting patients into our clinical trials. So I'm hopeful and I'm excited about the potential for AI to help us select some of the countries that we could run the trial in, help with the selection of the sites, and also help with identifying patients who may be suitable for participating in the clinical trial. So I think this is a tool that is going to definitely help global clinical trial operations, both at a central level, but also at a country level. It will be a tool to help us. The final decision will be a human decision based centrally and also with the input from the countries. But I am confident, and I've seen some shoots of enterprise here in terms of how artificial intelligence may begin to help the clinical trial process in terms of country selection, site selection, and eventually patient participation.
One thing you didn't mention that I hear from a few other leaders I speak to, I'd like to get your opinion on, is the interplay of physical and digital engagement with sites, with PIs, with nurses. I think some leaders out there really ask themselves what the role should be of a CRA or a site engagement liaison, whatever you may call this role, but really the person who is there, who spends time with the site, who is the knowledgeable and the relationship person really at the site from a sponsor perspective, who makes sure that we understand what's going on, but also that we understand how to help.
Yes.
Some people, I believe, frankly, think that this is going to be less important in the future, that it will be overtaken by remote interaction, by digital channels. What is your take?
So, Martin, as you said in the introduction, I started off life as a CRA. I had a great time as a CRA, and I have spent a lot of my time within pharma trying to valorize the CRA position to make it a core competency, because I believe that the CRA is crucial and essential to the smooth running of a clinical trial at the site, to look after patient safety, to help the investigator find patients and follow the protocol, and also make sure that the data is of good quality. So I firmly believe that the CRA position is here to stay. I think that we may have to equip them with additional skills to help them in the job today, and to utilize some of these new technologies and systems that are evident in other parts of the industry and other industries. So I feel that our CRAs in the future will have better data literacy skills, and they'll also be very comfortable with some of the new technologies. We talked about AI helping identify patients, helping identify sites. I think the CRAs will be very, very instrumental in that, because again, this is great technology, but at the end of the day, I still feel the human element is part of the process. We also talked about CRAs building relationships, and I've had the great fortune over my time in pharma to go co-monitoring with CRAs, and it's very evident that that is a skill our CRAs have, the ability to build a relationship quickly and to maintain that relationship during the life of the clinical trial for the benefit not just of the CRA and the pharma company, but also of the site. And it's tremendous to see that interaction, that relationship, that partnership. And I don't see technology replacing that. So for me, thank you to our CRAs and the CRAs around the industry. I think you will still be here for a long time.
Very good. I think, in previous conversations, Mark, you've alluded to this, which is sometimes we get a little bit preoccupied with what we see from a central sort of global perspective. But if you look at the environment at the sites and really what's going on in clinical healthcare, it's not set to be revolutionized. We're not perhaps seeing sort of the level of adoption of digital that we sometimes think we might have. We don't see them working differently. In fact, perhaps I would even say, in many cases, it's getting tough for sites to be part of clinical research unless they are really specialized in it, because there's just so much pressure on the healthcare systems from other changes. We have public systems in Europe that are significantly underfunded, or at least not effective in working through their backlogs. We have US systems that are going through significant uncertainty. What do you think, as we build on the conversation on CRAs, are some of the imperatives for us from a sponsor perspective in how we support these sites and our critical partners at the sites to be successful through this next period?
I think that we have, as an industry, to work better with sites. I think we have to help them more in terms of the tasks that they are carrying out. I think in the past, our approach to sites has been not optimal. We allocate clinical trials on a very fragmented basis. So I think we need to enter into a stronger partnership. We have to work closely to look at their areas of expertise and areas where we feel that we can help them. I think that we also have to share with them our goals and objectives and what our metrics are and how we are measured in terms of success. And we also have to listen to them in terms of their feedback on how they would like to work with us and what they feel that we can do better. And I also feel that if we're going to introduce some new technologies, we have to consult with them. and we have to find out what will be helpful for them. And also learn from other companies, because we don't want to reinvent the wheel and introduce some new technology if it's not beneficial, if there's not a problem to be solved, or if some other company has brought in something better. So again, it's a partnership with the site. It's understanding their needs, their capabilities, their capacity, and also working with other pharma company if they've got a better way of doing things, or they've got some technology that can help the site, then we'd be happy to join as well. So I think the partnership is good. It can be strengthened. Hopefully it will be strengthened. It was strengthened during the COVID period. We worked very closely with the sites, and I think that we can do this during the challenging times that we're going through at the moment, but we do have to listen to the sites.
Listening to the sites and working with them, I think, is a theme that we had up a lot yesterday when we spoke to our colleagues in the roundtable. One of the innovations that we explored was site management organizations or site networks, and how we might become stronger together in this triangle of sponsors, site management organizations, and sites, and all the related stakeholders there. I think you had a pretty strong opinion that this is a potential strength for our ecosystem, and that we can really create better value for everyone together. Can you tell us a little bit about how you see this potential and what needs to become true over the next years as this concept evolves?
Yeah. So again, we do work with, and like other pharma companies, we do work with some of these site management organizations and networks. And there is a place for them within global clinical trial operations. But there's also a place for the standalone sites. So it's not one or the other. I think there's the possibility and the ability for both to contribute to global drug development. My experiences with SMOs has been positive in terms of having resources, but also having people whose task is to look at a budget, to look at a contract. They have resources to help with patient recruitment and retention. They have engaged physicians. They have outreach programs. So it's very much run as a business, but with a focus on the patient and also on quality. So from a clinical trial perspective, from a pharma company perspective, that is very attractive to me. At the moment, it's mostly in the US, but one or two SMOs are beginning to expand into Europe. But coming from a global organization, where I have my clinical trials around the world, you mentioned close to 70 countries, I would like to see them potentially expand into other regions. And again, bring that operating model, into other countries, so that again, they could benefit from running their model in other countries, other regions. And I would benefit in terms of my deliveries, which are a clinical trial, good quality data, within budget and within the timelines to bring medicines to patients much quicker.
And with that, I feel we've come around a little bit to where we started the conversation. How do we bring medicines to patients quicker? And what's the innovation that can help us to really drive effectiveness? I mentioned in the beginning, you're preparing to transition your role. I'm sure you're not going to step aside and watch. So what's next for Mark Travers?
Yeah, so I've almost transitioned all my responsibilities over to one of my colleagues in Merck. And I've enjoyed a fantastic time, an amazing career, and tremendous experiences in the last 37 years. I feel I've still got something to contribute in terms of my knowledge and my experience. And I work with some colleagues in pharma and within the CRO environment, and also in consulting to contribute to discussions and to help move the needle in terms of the patient perspective, clinical trial operations, productivity, efficiencies, and again, bringing some of these much needed new medications to patients quicker. So I don't plan to spend all my time in clinical trials, but I will devote 1 or 2 days a week to sharing my experiences and helping others, and just engaging with this tremendous community that I've been privileged to work with over these many, many years. As I said in the beginning, these are some of the most professional, well-educated and experienced people I've ever come across, and if I can help them, if I can move things a little bit quicker, or help them in their journey, it will be a pleasure.
Wonderful. And we look forward to continuing to work together and continuing to have these good conversations and hopefully drive innovation together. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Martin.
It's been a pleasure to have you here.
My pleasure.
Great conversation. And thank you, everyone, for joining us for this episode of Practitioners Voices.